The verb to invent comes from the Latin invenio. That means I find, I discover, I get to know. It implies that for something to be invented, it needs to exist in the first place. Invention, then, is not a perfect synonym of creation, that in turn means to bring something into existence out of nothing. When we invent something, we find a thing that is already there. So where's the inventive part? Where the original ideas, the innovative thought come into play? To answer this question, we should take a quick detour. We used to look at the Italian cuisine as a granitic model, something coherent, stable, and deeply rooted in the Mediterranean basin. However, Italian cuisine, as each and every cultural product, is the ultimate fruit of a long and tortuous process. It's quite difficult to reconstruct the historical dynamics that led to the formation of the Italian cuisine. For argument's sake, we just need to bear in mind 3 points. 1. Italian cuisine evolved. 2. It doesn't exist as a national entity. And 3. It's the convergence point of several external influences. In which way cuisine can evolve, one may ask at this point. Well, let's just say that if you had a meal in 14th century Italy, you wouldn't have eaten the same stuff you find in modern Italian restaurants. Back then, cooks used different recipes, relied on different ingredients. This leads us to the second point. Cuisine in Italy has always been local, not regional, not national, local. Each town, each village has its own recipes because people have traditionally harvested ingredients from the neighboring areas. Nowadays we often think of Italy as the land of pasta and pizza because you can have fine pizza and pasta anywhere in the country. But that was not the case in times past. By the way, if you are interested in the history of Italian food, you might want to check the suggested readings on our site, italianculturepodcast.com. You'll notice that Italian cuisine hasn't always been formalized in the rigid form we are now used to. These days, many people adopt a purist perspective on the Italian culinary identity, condemning the experiments involving Italian recipes. Vegan carbonara, pineapple pizza, fettuccine alfredo, these dishes may all look awful to Italian eyes, but still follows the same route Italian cuisine took centuries ago. The development of Italian cuisine hasn't it been deeply corrected by an infinite set of stimuli that crossed the Alps, traversed the sea and landed into the country? Influence from the Far and Middle East, ideas from France, techniques and diet from the Anglo-Saxon world. Italy has always chewed, swallowed and digested the food that came from abroad. Ingenious cooks mingled foreign influences with the local ingredients and created long-lasting traditions. In some way, they replanted the culinary experiences from abroad into Italian ground. That's what happened with sandwiches too. In retrospect, it's clear that Angelina Nebbiolo re-elaborated the sandwich in several ways in order to make it palatable to her clients. She enhanced the recipe's potentiality while discarding what didn't fit into Italian custom. First, she kept the form factor, light, quick snack. Then she introduced the product to a different social segment, the upper-middle bourgeoisie, who used to hang out at the bar. She modified the way sandwich was consumed. Tramezzino became a treat to have between meals, perhaps with a cocktail on the side. It would have been quite unlikely for one of her customers to switch a meal with a tramezzino. Cristiano Ruggiero tells how old eating habits shaped the first selection of tramezzini the caffè offered.
Ma I primi tramezzini io credo che I gusti erano molto...
In the early days of the Mulassano caffè, you would have found only a few tramezzini on the menu. Eating habits were just different. People didn't normally have lunch or dinner at the cafe, so there was no need for elaborate recipes. Simpler times called for simpler tramezzini. Salami tramezzino, butter and anchovies, alverde anchovies, veal with tuna sauce, artichokes, tomato and mozzarella. So, Angelina Nebbiolo adapted her recipes to the customer's taste. She introduced many local ingredients that came from the merenda sinoira, an old Piemontese tradition. Merenda sinoira can be considered the ancestor of the modern happy hour with free food. In the old days, farmers and grape harvesters worked until night, so around 6 p.m. they had a snack. While drinking red wine, they ate a bit of every food they brought with them, like bread, salami, cheese, omelette, anchovies, Russian salad, vitello tonnato, coleslaw, and so on. Angela Nebbiolo filled their sandwiches with these ingredients, thus finding a new way to consume traditional food. In this sense, she can rightfully claim to have invented the tramezzino, since she found something, the sandwich, and transformed it into a new Italian product, the tramezzino. This sort of culinary translation is certainly worth the plaque you find inside the Mulassano caffé. In the end, plaques tells us where something new and noteworthy has emerged. They indicate a discontinuity in the daily routine. So in a certain sense, we are not dealing with a rebranding operation from sandwich to tramezzino. When Angela Nebbiolo claimed to be the inventor of the tramezzino, she raised a historical issue. A small one, sure, but still a historical one. And by the way, Angela Nebbiolo never said a thing about a sandwich. She was proud of her invention, the tramezzino. This name introduces us to the second person who played a big role in the tramezzino invention. That is the one who made this humble snack known to every hungry person in Italy. His name is Gabriele D'Annunzio.
Silenzio, che parla Gabriele D'Annunzio!
Writer, poet, journalist, playwright, army officer, politician, Gabriele D'Annunzio was probably one of the most influential figures in the early 20th century Italy. He had one rock star-like life before rock and roll was even born. People loved and hated him because he had several affairs with famous actresses while being considered a World War I hero. He certainly was one energetic political activist. Once, after the war ended, he led a few thousand troops to Fiume, a small town in Dalmatia, which used to be Italian land before the Paris Conference. He then conquered Fiume and ran an Italian independent state for a few months. Besides his adventurous life, Gabriele D'Annunzio is nowadays remembered for being a poet laureate. This work oscillated between decadentism, symbolism, and aestheticism. People called him Il Vate, that is the prophet, someone who foresees and shapes the future with his own words. And to be honest, that's the case with the tramezzino affair.
Caffè normale?
Legend tells that one morning Gabriele D'Annunzio was sitting in the Mulassano caffé, focused on his writings, sipping an aperitif and nibbling at some sandwiches. He enjoyed the snack and quickly emptied the plate. The poet turned himself towards the counter to ask for more. But at that point, he found himself to be in quite a pickle. How he, an hyper-nationalist Vate, could use an Anglicism. How his brave Italic mouth could pronounce the heinous word, sandwich. That's when his ingenuity kicked in, and without even stuttering exclaimed, "Bring me some more of these tasty tramezzini." Tramezzini. He created the word out of nothing. Until then, nobody had called those tiny snacks tramezzini. You might have heard the word panino, paninetto. The bravest clients opted for the English version, asking for a sandwich. But again, D'Annunzio was the one who coined the term. Or at least, it seemed so. Francesca Dragotto, professor in linguistics at the University of Tor Vergata, Rome, has a different opinion on the matter.
I dizionari etimologici della lingua italiana non attribuiscono affatto a Angela De Michelis Nebbiolo.
According to each and every Italian etymological dictionary, the term tramezzino has been coined by Gabriele D'Annunzio, and Angela Nebbiolo had no role in the process. This is a fishy story, you know. Something is not right here. It seems to me that this case is one occurrence of that old unfortunate habit of dictionary compilers. I'm talking about the outdated way of gathering information. Did you find the first occurrence of tramezzino in D'Annunzio's work? Then D'Annunzio has to be the one who coined the term. It's very likely, in fact, that D'Annunzio just heard the name when he visited the Mulassano caffé and enjoyed his deal of tramezzini. The word had already been coined by Angela De Michelis Nebbiolo. Let's say D'Annunzio was responsible for the tramezzino's luck. Being a poet and a prominent intellectual figure of that time, he found himself in the position to amplify the tramezzino's resonance. He made it a famous term, and more, he introduced tramezzino into the everyday vocabulary. Of course, this situation isn't fair to Angela Nebbiolo, at least from a linguistic standpoint. She couldn't advertise the coinage on a national level, so now we cannot claim that she was the one who coined the word. While I'm not 100% sure about my hypothesis, I can disclose that by doing a bit of digging, I uncovered some corroborating clues. Those clues led me into thinking that perhaps neither Angela Nebbiolo was responsible for the coinage of the word. I'd say that she granted more visibility to the term tramezzino, a term that could have been in use before and beyond her, in a different social context. The word tramezzino comes from tramezzo, that is the partition wall. Tramezzino, tramezzo. And tramezzo is a centuries-old word. Now, Angela Nebbiolo crystallized the relation between the word tramezzino and the exact recipe. She distinguished the tramezzino from any other recipe that involved filling between two pieces of bread.
Language and cuisine here go hand in hand. When you translate a word that has never been rendered into your native language, your word, your habits, meet the experiences behind the foreign term. The same happens when you reinterpret a recipe from abroad. Your culinary world ends up meeting an ensemble of traditions the new recipe brings along. Poets and chefs are the ones who bridge these two worlds, what's familiar and what's exotic. They drag the first word into the second one and find a way to make the two work together. Sometimes they smooth the edges, often they retune some elements. The result, be it a recipe or a word, shows some connection to the old, while being rooted in the new. Italian Culture is produced by Ars Dicendi. Regular episodes come out every 2 Fridays, while extras come out every 2 Mondays. Each episode is made by independent professionals and is completely self-financed. If you enjoyed our show, you can help us by sharing this episode on social media, email, mail, telegraph, smoke signals, or any means of communication you find appropriate. Just introduce your friends to Italian Culture and leave a comment, a review. Even if you think the show's awful, don't worry, we have thick skin. And don't forget our site, italianculturepodcast.com. There you'll find additional info on each episode, such as a list of suggested readings, images and transcriptions which may help you understand our broken English. We also share exclusive contents on social media. Just search Italian Culture the podcast on Facebook. For today's episode, our thanks go to Patrizio Abrate, Francesca Dragotto and Cristiano Ruggiero. If you consider yourself to be a foodie, you should definitely taste the original tramezzino. Do yourself a favor and visit the Mulassano caffé in Turin. It's a treat for the eyes. And for the mouth too, of course. To plan your visit, go to caffè mulassano.com.